Daughter accidentally finds her mother having an affair. Then her father calls. Hello? Hi, honey. This is Daddy. Is Mommy near the phone? No, Daddy. She's upstairs in the bedroom with Uncle Paul. After a brief pause, Daddy says, But honey, you haven't got an Uncle Paul. Oh, yes, I do. And he's upstairs in the room with Mommy right now. Brief pause. Okay then. This is what I want you to do. Put the phone down on the table, run upstairs and knock on the bedroom door and shout to Mommy that Daddy's car just pulled into the driveway. Okay, Daddy, just a minute. A few minutes later, the little girl comes back to the phone. I did it, Daddy. And what happened, honey? He asked. Well, Mommy got all scared, jumped out of bed with no clothes on and ran around screaming. Then she tripped over the rug, hit her head on the dresser, and now she isn't moving at all. Oh my God. What about your Uncle Paul? He jumped out of the bed with no clothes on too. He was all scared and he jumped out of the back window and into the swimming pool, but I guess he didn't know that you took out the water last week to clean it. He hit the bottom of the pool and I think he passed out. Long pause. Then Daddy says, swimming pool? Is this 486-5731? Oops, wrong number.
In a quaint town, there lived three inseparable friends named Jack, Tom, and Harry. They had grown up together, gone through highs and lows, and had shared countless adventures. One particular evening, after celebrating another memorable event, the trio decided to head home. As they drove along the empty roads, a car driven by a drunk driver veered into their lane, crashing into them. The accident was catastrophic, leaving no survivors. The news spread like wildfire throughout the town. People were devastated, but none more so than the three girlfriends of Jack, Tom, and Harry, Sarah, Emily, and Rachel. Their grief was insurmountable, but they were determined to commemorate the lives of their beloved in a meaningful way. A few days after the tragedy, the three ladies decided to meet up. They wanted to discuss how they would handle the ashes of their respective boyfriends. Sarah was the first to speak, reminiscing about Jack's love for nature. Jack could spend hours in the forest, admiring its beauty, she shared. I think the perfect tribute to his spirit would be to scatter his ashes amongst the trees. He'd have loved to be a part of the place he cherished so deeply. Emily, nodding in agreement, spoke of Tom's undying love for the ocean. I remember our beach trips and how Tom would talk for hours about the wonders of the marine world, she said, her eyes glistening with tears. It's only fitting that his final resting place is the vast ocean. I'll ensure his ashes are set free into the deep blue waters, becoming one with the marine life he adored. All eyes then turned to Rachel, who seemed deep in thought. She hesitated a moment before speaking. I'm going to mix them into a big pot of chili and eat it. The others gasped in disbelief. Rachel, why on earth would you do something like that? Emily asked, her voice filled with shock. Rachel smiled a little, wiping away a tear. I want to feel him rip through my ass one last time.
A beer company was hiring a taster, someone to taste the beers before they are taken for selling. So they placed adverts, and one afternoon, a man walked into the manager's office asking to be employed. The manager tried to figure out how he could drive him away, but couldn't come up with an idea, so he decided to give him a trial. He ordered his secretary to give him a glass of wine. He took a sip and said, "It's red wine, varietal, 3 years old, grown in Bordeaux, matured in steel containers." "That's correct," the manager exclaimed. "Well, give him another one, let's see." So he was given. He took a sip again and said, "It's Guinness, a combination of barley, roast malt extract, and brewer's yeast brewed around Sungay Way in Malaysia 2 years ago." "Incredible," said the manager. Now the manager went closer to the secretary and whispered to her saying, "Go get some of your urine in a cup. Let's see if he will get that." So he was given the cup of urine. He took a sip, turned to the manager and said, "Female urine, 26 years old, 2 weeks pregnant, and if I'm not given this job, sir, I will tell your wife, who is responsible for the pregnancy." Both the manager and the secretary fainted.
In a small town, there was a man named Bob who had an unusually large problem. His problem was his incredibly long 25-inch manhood. Everywhere he went, it was a challenge. Whether it was trying to buy fitting trousers or even just sitting comfortably, life was a struggle. But more importantly, his romantic encounters were always problematic. Many women were scared off by the sheer size of it, leading to a lot of awkward and embarrassing situations. Bob tried everything to find a solution. He consulted doctors, specialists, and even therapists to address his issue, but nobody had any answers. One day, after another frustrating appointment, the doctor said, "I don't have a medical solution for you. However, I've heard legends of a powerful witch who lives at the edge of the town. Maybe she can provide some magical help." Desperate for any kind of relief, Bob decided to visit this witch. He traveled to the outskirts of town, and there he found a small, eerie hut that was said to be the home of the witch. He knocked, and an old woman with piercing eyes opened the door. Bob nervously explained his peculiar problem to her. The witch, after listening to his tale, said, "I might know a way, but it involves a magical creature in the forest. Would you be willing to go on a little journey?" Bob, seeing a glimmer of hope, eagerly agreed. The witch then gave him detailed instructions. Deep in the forest, there's a mystical pond. At the edge of this pond sits a magical frog. This frog has a special power. You have to ask the frog to marry you. Every time it says no, your problem will shrink by 5 inches. With these directions, Bob ventured deep into the forest. After hours of searching, he finally found the pond and, just as the witch described, saw the frog sitting on a log. Without wasting a moment, he asked, "Will you marry me?" The frog, looking a bit annoyed, replied, "No." To Bob's astonishment, he felt a change, and his problem had indeed shrunk by 5 inches. Overwhelmed by the immediate result, he thought to himself, "Well, 20 inches is better, but it's still too long." He decided to ask again, "Frog, will you marry me?" The frog, now looking even more irritated, shouted, "No." And just like that, another 5 inches were gone. Now at 15 inches, Bob thought that a bit smaller would be just perfect. So he mustered up the courage and yelled, "Frog, will you marry me?" The frog, clearly fed up, shouted back, "How many times do I have to tell you? No, no, no." The school board recently proposed adding a sex education course to the educational offerings at the local school. They felt it was an essential part of growing up, and students needed to be informed. Before implementing the new course, the board wanted to ensure they had the backing of the parents. A significant number of responses flooded in, and to the board's surprise, most parents were in favor. However, many of them had a specific condition they wanted the school to adhere to. They didn't want their children to be exposed to explicit content or visual demonstrations. In summary, the parents' collective sentiment was clear. The course was a good idea, but the teaching methods should steer clear of anything graphic. In their words, just keep it oral. In a bustling town square, there was an ugly couple. But life had its funny way of playing things out, and they were the proud parents of 2 exceptionally beautiful children. One day, the family decided to take a leisurely stroll through the town. As they wandered around, they couldn't help but notice that they were garnering quite a bit of attention. While they were used to some stares given their appearances, today the glances seemed to linger. In the midst of their stroll, they caught a snippet of a conversation from a curious passerby, talking to his friend. It's truly baffling. How can 2 ugly people have such lovely children? Without missing a beat, the couple approached the stranger. The husband remarked, "You idiot, we didn't make them with our faces."